The thing I think about most is the 9 months.
The 9 months.
People write that I waited 9 months. Some say 7. I'd have to check. It doesn't matter. It was long enough.
Long enough for what?
For the tumor to do what tumors do when you don't cut them out.
You thought you could fix it another way.
I thought a lot of things. I thought I could outthink it. I thought my body was something I'd built. I thought, look, I don't know what I thought. That's the honest part. I had a diagnosis and I had a plan, and the plan was every plan except the one the surgeon was suggesting.
Why?
I don't have a clean answer. People want a clean answer. They want me to say I was afraid. I was afraid. Of course I was afraid. But that's not the whole. That's not even most of it.
What's most of it?
Control. I think it was control. I'd been telling other people what was possible for a long time. And then somebody in a white coat tells you what's possible inside your own body, and you don't know how to be on that side of the sentence.
So you waited.
I waited.
Do you regret it?
I don't use that word the way other people do. But yes, if I'm being precise, yes.
Where are we right now?
My house, the backyard, technically. There's a bench out here Lorene picked out years ago. I never used it. Now I sit on it every morning.
Every morning?
For about an hour. My back hurts if I sit longer than that. Used to be I could sit on a zafu for 2 hours and not feel anything. Now an hour on a teak bench and my lower back is anyway.
What do you do for that hour?
Nothing. That's the honest answer. I drink tea. I watch the light come up overhead the hedge. There's a kind of orange tree my dad would have hated. He liked the navels. This is something else, blood orange, and the sun hits it first.
Your father had opinions about citrus.
My father had opinions about everything that grew in dirt. Anyway, I watch the tree, I drink the tea, the tea gets cold, I keep drinking it. Here's the thing about mornings. I never had one. For 30 years, I had emails at 5, I had calls at 6, I had a car at 7. I didn't have a morning. I had a launch sequence.
When did that stop?
Some of it stopped in 2009 after the transplant. Some of it I had to stop on purpose. Some of it is still, I keep doing this with my chin. Have you noticed?
I noticed.
Lorene noticed it first. About a year ago, she said, you've started doing this thing where you pull your chin, like you're checking if it's still attached. I didn't know I was doing it. Now I know. Now I do it more.
It's a tell.
It's a tell. It's also, I don't know. My grandmother had something like it with her ear. She'd reach up and touch her ear when somebody said something she didn't like. I used to watch her and think, why does she do that? Now I'm doing it with my chin. Anyway, mornings.
Mornings.
I watch the tree. The light moves. There's a hummingbird that comes around 7:15 if it's warm. It used to bother me that I didn't know what species. Now it's a hummingbird. You know, I let it be a hummingbird.
That's new.
That's very new.
Tell me about your dad,
Which one?
the one who raised you.
Paul Reinhold-Jobs. He was good. He was really good. He was a mechanic. He fixed cars. He took broken cars and he made them not broken. Sometimes he made them beautiful. He didn't have a word for what he did. He just did it.
He didn't go to college.
He didn't finish high school. Coast Guard. Then he came home and he worked with his hands for the rest of his life. He never made much money. He never wanted to. There's a difference between people who don't make money and people who don't want money. He was the second one. I learned later that's rarer than people think.
What did he teach you?
He taught me about the back of the cabinet.
The back of the cabinet.
We built a fence around the backyard in Mountain View when I was, I don't know, 6, 7. He let me hammer some of the boards, and then he flipped one over and showed me the back, the side nobody was going to see. And he said, this side has to be just as good as the front. I said, why, Si? He said, because you'll know. He said, the wood will know. I was 6 years old. I'm 66. I still think about that fence.
You're 56.
I'm 56. You're right. I'm 56. Sorry, I keep adding 10. It's a thing I do now. Anyway, the fence. He had a workbench in the garage. Not a fancy one. Sears, I think, with a vise on the left end that he used so much the handle was worn smooth. Smart of business. Smoth. He let me use that vise when I was 7. I broke a piece of pine in it the first time. I thought he was going to be furious. He just got another piece of pine.
He didn't get angry.
He didn't get angry about wood. He got angry about, I keep doing it. With my chin, sorry. He got angry about dishonesty. He got angry about laziness. He never got angry about a kid breaking pine. Pine doesn't care.
What car did he drive?
57 Chevy for a while. Then a 62 Nash Metropolitan he bought as a wreck and rebuilt in our driveway over a summer. Tiny thing. Two-tone, blue and white. He let me sand it. I had a piece of sandpaper that was bigger than my hand. I remember the smell of the primer he used. So some lacquer-based thing they don't make anymore. He had a record player in the garage, and he listened to mariachi music while he worked. I don't know why mariachi. He wasn't Mexican. He wasn't anything. He was Wisconsin. Anyway, mariachi and primer fan, the sound of sandpaper. That's what a Saturday smelled like.
Did he know what you were doing later?
Some of it.
How much?
Enough to be proud, not enough to understand. He came to the office once, the first Mac office in Cupertino, Banley 3. I gave him a tour. He looked at everything and he said, "It's clean." That was his review. It's clean.
That was high praise.
That was the highest praise. Coming from him, you have to understand, clean meant something to him. Clean meant somebody cared. Clean meant the person doing the work respected the work. So he walked through a building full of engineers and prototypes and 28-year-olds, and he says 2 words: "It's clean." I walked back to my office, And I had to sit down for a minute. I don't know if I ever told him what that meant to me. I don't think I did. That's one of the things.
One of the things?
One of the things I didn't say.
Reed was expensive.
Reed was very expensive. It was one of the most expensive colleges in the country at the time. I didn't know that when I picked it. I picked it because somebody I respected had gone there. That was my whole research.
Your parents paid for it.
My parents paid for it. They didn't have it. They paid for it anyway.
How?
My mom worked. My dad picked up extra hours. He did some side work for a guy who flipped houses in Sunnyvale, installing locks, fixing doors, that kind of thing. On weekends, he'd been working 5 days at Spectrophysics, and then as he'd go do this on Saturdays for cash. I didn't know about the side work until much later. He never mentioned it. My mom told me.
And then you dropped out.
I dropped out after one semester.
Did you tell him first?
I told him after. I called from a payphone on campus. I remember the payphone. It was outside the library. There was a kid eating a sandwich on the bench next to it, and I remember being annoyed that he was there. Anyway, I called my mom. My dad got on the line for the last minute or so.
What did he say?
He didn't say anything. He said, okay. He said, are you eating? He said, call us when you have an address. That was it.
He didn't ask why.
He didn't ask why.
Did that bother you?
At the time, no. At the time, I thought I was free. I thought I'd done something honest. I'd taken a thing I didn't believe in and I put it down. That felt clean. That felt like something my dad would respect, actually. The cleanness of it.
And now?
Now I think about the side work. The locks in Sunnyvale on Saturdays. While I was at Reed eating rice from a steel bowl at the Hare Krishna temple and feeling spiritual about it.
Did you ever talk about it later?
No.
Not once?
Not once. He died in 1993. We had 30 more years together after I dropped out. We talked about a lot of things. We didn't talk about that. I think he decided early on that he wasn't going to make me feel bad about it. He made that decision, and then he toe it. That was a Paul thing. He'd make a decision, and then he wouldn't drift from it. Even when drifting would have been easier.
You carry it.
I carry it. I've made peace with it. But I carry it. Those aren't the same thing, or I think those are different things. And I think for a long time, I told myself they were the same thing. They're not.
What's the difference?
Peace is what you tell yourself so you can keep going. Carrying is what's actually there. You can do both at the same time. Most people do.
Before we go any deeper, if this is the kind of conversation you've been looking for, the kind that doesn't rush and doesn't sell you anything, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. We release one of these every week, and the people who find them usually stay for years. Okay, back to him. When did you find out you were adopted?
I always knew. They told me right away. There wasn't a moment where they sat me down and explained. It was just a fact. Like the color of the house. I was adopted. The house was yellow. Those were both things that were true.
So you didn't have a reveal?
I didn't have a reveal. I had a translation.
What does that mean?
I knew the word. I didn't know what the word meant. Those are different things. I was, I don't know, 6. I was 6. There was a girl across the street. Her name was Lisa, actually, which is funny in retrospect. Lisa Schwartz, I think, or Schultz, one of those. She was a year older. She was on the curb. We were drawing chalk on the sidewalk, and she said, "You know your real parents didn't want you, right?"
You said that.
She said that. She wasn't being cruel. She was 7. She was reporting the way 7-year-olds do. She had information, and she was passing it along.
What did you do?
I stood up. I didn't say anything to her. I walked across the street. I didn't run. I remember that. I was very careful to not run. I went inside, and I went into the kitchen, and my mom was at the sink. And I asked her, I said, "Did my real parents not want me?"
What did she say?
She did this thing. She turned the water off. I don't know why I remember that. She turned the water off first before she answered. Like she needed it quiet. And then she crouched down. She was a small woman. My mom, she didn't have to crouch much. And she said, "Your father and I, we chose you. We specifically chose you. We went to a place and we said, that one. We want that one."
That's a beautiful thing to say.
It's a beautiful thing to say. It's also, look. It saved me, what she said. It really did. I don't want to dismiss it. But it also did something else. Because if you can be chosen, you can also be, there's a flip side. You can be not chosen. You can be set down somewhere and walked away from. The choosing implies the leaving. You can't have one without the other.
Did you understand that at 6?
I understood something. I didn't have language for it. I had a feeling in my stomach. I had a feeling. I went to bed that night, and I remember staring at the ceiling and thinking, somewhere there's a woman who looked at me and decided, no. That's a strange thing to think when you're, that's a strange thing to think when you're 6.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry that night. I cried about it for the rest of my life. Just not that night. That night I just looked at the ceiling.
Did you ever tell your mom what Lisa Schwartz said?
No. That was mine. I kept it. I had a little wooden box my dad made me with a hinge. It was supposed to be for marbles. I kept that in there, not the marbles. The thing she said, the information.
You kept information in a marble box?
I kept information in a marble box. Yeah, that's what 6-year-olds do. They find a container and they put the dangerous thing in it.
Did you ever take it out?
Every couple of years.
To look at it?
To check that it was still true.
You picked Reed because someone you respected went there.
That's right. A guy in my class at Homestead, I'm not going to say his name, he had good taste in everything. Music, books, where to eat, where to go to school. I followed him to Reed He didn't know I was following him. He probably still doesn't.
Did Reed work?
Reed didn't work the way it was supposed to work. Reed worked a different way.
Explain that.
I went to maybe 2 real classes. I sat in on a lot of others. I dropped out officially after 1 semester. I stayed on campus for about 18 months after that. Officially, I was nobody. I had no dorm. I had no meal plan. I had no. I was a ghost. The campus knew I was a ghost. They were nice about it. The dean knew. Jack Dudman. He covered for me.
He let you stay.
He let me stay. He looked the other way. He could have thrown me off the campus. He didn't. I think about him sometimes. He died in 2007. I didn't go to the funeral. I should have written him a letter. I didn't do that either.
Where did you sleep?
On floors, Frenna's dorm rooms, Daniel Koteke's room mostly. He let me have a corner. I had a sleeping bag and a few books. I'd return Coke bottles for the deposit, 5 cents each. That was food money. I'd walk 7 miles every Sunday to the Hare Krishna temple in Northwest Portland. They served a free meal on Sundays, rice and dal and a vegetable. I'd eat as much as I could because I didn't know when the next real meal was.
7 miles.
7 miles each way, 14 miles for a plate of rice. I wasn't doing it for the rice exactly. I mean, I was, but I was also doing it for the discipline of the walk. I was 20 years old, and I was reading too much Buddhist literature, and I thought everything had to be earned. I thought a free meal, you walked 7 miles for tasted different than a free meal that was just given to you.
Did it?
Yeah. It tasted better. Whether that was because the walk made me hungry or because I'd convinced myself it would taste better. I don't know. Probably the second one. I was good at convincing myself.
In the calligraphy class.
Father Robert Palladino. That's a man I should have stayed in touch with. Another one. Anyway, Father Palladino taught the calligraphy class. I keep doing this with my chin. Sorry. I think about the calligraphy classroom more than I think about almost any room I've ever been in. More than the Mac lab, more than any of it.
What was in that room?
A long table, plain wood. The kind of wood my dad would have approved of. Light from the north light is what calligraphers want. It's steady, it doesn't change. There were these reservoir pens with steel nibs, speedball nibs, black ink. There was a particular kind of paper, I want to say Strathmore. Smooth, not too smooth. You needed the surface to grab the ink just a little. And Father Palladino would stand at the front and he'd say things like, the space between the letters is more important than the letters. I was 19 and I'd never heard anyone talk like that.
About letters?
About anything. Look, I'd been raised in a garage by a man who cared about the back of a cabinet. So I knew about that. I knew about the thing you don't see being just as important as the thing you do see. But this man was saying it about typography, about the air around a letter. He was saying that the empty parts were doing the work. That was new to me. I felt that in my chest. Some classes you take and they go into your head, that class went into my body.
And then 10 years later.
And then 10 years later, the Mac had multiple typefaces with proportionally spaced fonts because of that room. That's it. That's the whole story. People want it to be more complicated. It's not. I sat in a room with a Cistercian monk, and I learned to look at the space between letters, l'washesh. And 10 years later, I built a machine that paid attention to the space between letters. The dots only connect backwards. I said that in the Stanford speech. It's still true. Nothing connects forward. Something, you just have to trust that something is being put down that you might need later.
When did you stop being a ghost on that campus?
When I went to India.
Why India?
I wanted to meet Neem Karoli Baba. Ram Dass had written Be Here Now, and Neem Karoli Baba was Ram Dass's teacher. I thought if I sat in front of that man for an hour, I would know something I didn't know before. I sold whatever I had. I got money from my parents. I had to ask them, which was hard. And I flew to New Delhi. I was 20. Kotke met me a few weeks later. We took trains. We took buses. We went north. We got to Kainchi.
He was already gone.
He died the year before. I didn't know. The information hadn't reached me. We got off the bus, and the ashram was there, and the people were there, and the man was not there.
What did you do?
I stayed for a while. I sat where he had sat. I drank chai. I got dysentery. I lost about 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I weighed nothing, when I came home. I cut off my hair. I bought robes. I did all of the things that an American boy does when he goes to India to find a guru and arrives a year late.
Did you find anything?
I found out I wasn't going to find it there. That was the thing I found. I came home and I realized that the most spiritual place I knew about was the room with the speedball nibs and the steel pens. I didn't have to go to Kainchi. I had to go back to Portland.
When did Woz come into focus?
Woz was always in focus. I met him when I was 13. I was 13, he was 18. A friend introduced us in a backyard in Sunnyvale. He was already an engineer. He'd already built things I couldn't have built. Woz was different. He was different in a way that I recognized immediately. He didn't perform, he just did things. He liked the doing.
And you?
I liked the result. That's the honest answer. Woz loved circuits. I loved the box the circuits went into. I loved the moment somebody picked the box up and the box did something the person didn't think a box could do. Those are different leaves. You need both. You need both. We had both. That's why it worked.
Whose idea was the company?
Mine. Woz wasn't going to start a company. Woz wanted to keep his day job at HP and give the boards away or sell them at cost. He was a hobbyist. He was a beautiful hobbyist. I had to convince him, not once, many times, over months. I said, Woz, we can do this. He said, I'm fine at HP. I said, Woz, we can really do this. He said, I'm fine at HP. Eventually he came around. His dad didn't come around for a long time. His dad thought I was a hustler. His dad his dad wasn't wrong. I was a hustler. Hustlers and engineers need each other. That's the whole startup model. People want it to be more complicated. It's not.
Chris Drive.
Chris Drive, 2066 Chris Drive. Los Altos. People say garage. There was a garage. We did some work in the garage. Most of the work happened in my parents' house. The kitchen table, the bedroom I'd grown up in. Patty's room, my sister, when she was out. We used whatever room was empty. The garage is the story because the garage is photogenic. The truth is messier. The truth is, my mom made us sandwiches and let 20-something men sleep on her couches for months.
She didn't ask questions.
She didn't ask questions. She made sandwiches. She was incredible about that. My dad would come home and there'd be a stranger asleep on the recliner and he'd just step around him. He wouldn't say anything. He'd go to the kitchen and pour himself a glass of water and go to bed.
How much money did you have?
Nothing. I sold my Volkswagen bus. It was a 66 minibus, red and white. I'd put a lot of myself into that bus. I'd taken it to read. I'd had it in India. No, I didn't have it in India. I'd had it before. Anyway, I sold it for $1,500. Was sold his HP calculator. He had a programmable HP 65. That was a serious piece of equipment in '76. He sold it for $500. We had $1,300 between us. We had $1,300 and an idea about boards.
Just boards, not computers.
Just boards. The Apple, I was a board. You had to add your own case, your own keyboard, your own power supply, your own monitor. It was for hobbyists. It wasn't even something you'd sell to a normal person. We thought we'd make 50, maybe 100 over the year. We thought we'd make a few $1,000, and so Woz could keep his day job and I could pay rent.
And then Paul Terrell walked in.
Paul Terrell walked in, the bite shop, Mountain View. I'd seen Woz demo the board at the Homebrew Computer Club. He came to Chris Drive. He stood in the doorway. I remember he was wearing a jacket, light brown, suede, I think. He smelled like cigarettes. He took one look at the operation, which was me in a t-shirt and Woz hunched over a soldering iron, and he said, I'll take 50, fully assembled, $500 each.
50 fully assembled.
50 fully assembled. We hadn't ever made one fully assembled. We hadn't even made the case. We'd made the board. Paul Terrell wanted boards and cases with everything attached, ready to plug in.
What did you say?
I said, okay. I shook his hand. He left. I went to the kitchen. I sat down at the kitchen table where my mom had made me toast my whole childhood, and I put my head down on the table for about a minute. Just put my head down. Wood feels different when you put your head on it. Because we didn't have the parts. We didn't money for the parts. We didn't have a supplier. We didn't have a credit line. We had a handshake from a guy in a suede jacket who smelled like cigarettes. And we had 30 days.
How did you get the parts?
I went to Kramer Electronics. I asked for 30 days credit on $20,000 of components. They called Paul Terrell to verify the order. Paul Terrell verified. They gave us the parts. We built the 50 units in the kitchen. We delivered them. He paid. We bought groceries.
That's it.
That's it. That's the founding. People want it to be insanely magical. It was insanely simple. We sold a board to a guy in a suede jacket, and then we ran around for 30 days like our hair was on fire. That's the whole story.
Did you sleep?
Not really. I was 21. I had hair down past my shoulders. I weighed about 140 pounds. I lived on apples and brown rice and the occasional bowl of carrots. I was eating mono diets back then, one food at a time. It was a thing, and I didn't think about sleep. I thought about parts. I thought about Paul Terrell's face. I thought about my dad in the next room not asking what we were doing. That's what I thought about.
Let's jump forward. Apple goes public, 1980.
December 80. Yeah.
You're 25. You're worth $100 million on paper.
200, roughly. Depends on the day. Stock moved. I stopped checking after a while. It was a number. I didn't know what to do with the number. I bought a house in Los Gatos. I didn't furnish it. I had a mattress on the floor and a Tiffany lamp and an Ansel Adams print on the wall. That was the whole house. People came over and they looked around and they didn't know what to say.
Were you happy?
I was busy. I don't know if I was happy. Happy wasn't the question I was asking us, what's next? I'd answered the previous question. The previous question was, can we do this? Yes, we did this. Now what?
Now, what was Lisa?
Now, what was a lot of things? Lisa was one of them.
Tell me about Lisa.
The machine.
The machine.
The Lisa was the computer. Apple was building after the Apple II. It was supposed to be the future. It had a graphical user interface, which most people had never seen. It had a mouse, it had folders, and a trash can on the screen. It was insanely ambitious. It was also $10,000. It came out in 1983. It sold poorly. Within 2 years, it was effectively dead. The Macintosh ate it. I ate it. I led the team that ate it. That's the short version.
That's the short version.
That's the short version. There's a longer version. The longer version is, I'd been pushed off the Lisa project. The board had concerns about me. Specific people had concerns about me. They thought I was difficult. They were right. They moved me to a smaller team called the Macintosh. The Macintosh started as Jeff Raskin's project. I took it from Jeff. And I rebuilt it in my image, and I made it cheaper and faster and more emotional, more design forward than Lisa. And then I went to war with the Lisa team. I made them my enemy on purpose. I told the Macintosh team they were pirates. I literally I had a pirate flag put up on the roof of Banley 3. I was 30.
You went to war with another team at your own company.
I went to war with another team at my own company. I'm not proud of how I behaved. Some of those Lisa people were friends. Some of them I'd hired. I made it personal. That's a thing I did. I made things personal that didn't need to be personal. That's been a pattern.
Why, Lisa?
Officially, local integrated software architecture. That was the backronym. Somebody on the team came up with that. Officially, that's what it stood for.
Officially?
Yeah.
And unofficially?
I named it after my daughter.
Lisa Brennan.
Lisa Brennan. Born May 17, 1978. She was 5 years old when the computer came out. She was already a person by then. She'd been a person for a while, even though I was officially not her father at that point. I'd taken a paternity test. The results said I was. I'd argued otherwise in court. I'd signed papers saying I was sterile. I'd done a lot of things. But I'd also named a computer after her.
Did anyone know?
Officially, no. Bono asked me about it years later. We were having dinner. He asked it the way Bono asks questions, which is, Bono asks like he already knows the answer and he just wants you to say it out loud. I said yes. I said yes. I named it after her. He said, why didn't you ever say so? I said, there was a moment around then where I almost, actually, never mind. That's not the right tangent.
What's the right tangent?
I don't know if there is one. Let me sit with it.
Take your time.
The whole Lisa thing, the machine, the name, the cover story, the lawsuit, it was all happening in the same 18 months. I was building a computer named after a daughter I was denying. And I was going to war with the team building it. So I could replace it with a computer I'd renamed after a kind of apple. And I was telling everyone. I was telling Time magazine. On the record, that Lisa, the person, wasn't mine. While the engineers walked past a computer with her name on the badge every day. That was my life in 1982. I want to be precise about that because people sometimes flatten it. They say, oh, he had a difficult time with his daughter early on, and then they move on. The flattening lets me off too easy. The flattening still was happening then, and the flattening still wants to happen now.
It was a contradiction.
It was a contradiction. It was many contradictions stacked on top of each other. I didn't see them as contradictions at the time. I saw them as, I had a story I was telling myself about who I was. The story didn't have room for all of it. So I edited.
It's a hard thing to admit.
It would have been harder to admit in 1985. I had 30 more years to think about it. That's the only reason I can say it now.
Tell me about Lisa now.
Lisa's good. Lisa's a writer. She lives in New York. She's married. She has a son. He has beautiful. He has her eyes, which were Chris Ann's eyes, which is to say nothing of mine. She came to my wedding in '91. She was 12, almost 13. I think she wore something blue. Laureen picked it out, I think. We reconciled. We did. We had years together. She lived with us when she was in high school. We had Christmas together. She was at the place when Reed was born. She held him when he was an hour old. We reconciled.
That's the version.
That's the version. That's the one I tell. That's the one she lets me tell, mostly.
Is it true?
It's true. It's all true. Every sentence in it is true. The problem with the version is what it leaves out, not what it puts in.
What does it leave out?
Let me try that again. The version I just gave you, that version is the version where I get to be a man who reconciled with his daughter. There's a different version where the reconciliation is the last chapter of a much longer book. And the longer book is the one where I wasn't her father for the first 9 years she was alive. I was somebody she met sometimes. I was a thing in the news. I was a name on a court document her mother carried around. The reconciliation is real. The reconciliation is also a thing I get to put at the end because I outlived the worst of what I did.
What did you do?
I denied her. I denied her in court. I said I was sterile. I said the math was wrong. I had lawyers say things on my behalf that I knew were not, I knew they weren't right. I was 23 when she was born. I had just become rich. I was on the cover of magazines. Her mother was on welfare. Her mother was getting food stamps in Menlo Park while I was on the cover of magazines. I knew. I didn't pretend not to know. I just acted as though I didn't know. There's a difference. I want to be precise about that.
When did that end?
When Lisa was 3, when the paternity suit settled, I started paying child support. That was an admission. Then I did the thing rich men do. I wrote checks. I thought writing checks would be enough. It wasn't. Of course it wasn't. She was a little girl. She needed me at her birthday. She didn't need a check.
Did you go to her birthday?
Not until she was about, I want to say 8, 9. It took me until she was about 9 to start showing up regularly. I want you to understand, I'm not making this. I'm not telling you this to be absolved. I'm telling you because the polished version is the lie my mind has tried to build for 30 years. And I keep doing this thing where I let the polished version stand. Even when somebody asks me directly, I let it stand and I move on.
Why are you not doing that today?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
Because there's a clock. I think it's because there's a clock. I've been thinking about that classroom in Reed a lot this year. The one with the long table. Father Palladino used to say, the space between the letters does the work. The space is what people read, even though they think they're reading the letters. I think I've been a letter my whole life. Loud, visible, letter-shaped, I haven't been the spaces. The spaces are what Lisa needed. The spaces are what she didn't get. And I'm running out of time to be a space. Anyway, is there more tea? There isn't. That's fine. Where were we?
Quick pause. If something he just said made you stop scrolling, leave it in the comments. Not for me, for the next person who finds this 2 a.m. wondering if they're the only one feeling that way. And if you're still here this far in, the like button helps more than you'd think. That's it. Let's keep going. Let's talk about 1985.
Yeah,
You hired John Scully.
I hired John Scully. I recruited him from Pepsi. I'd been chasing him for months. He kept saying no. He had a life in New York. He had a corner office and a chauffeur and a number of zeros on his contract. I flew out to see him. I walked with him on a balcony at the San Remo apartment building in Manhattan. We looked down at Central Park. I said the line. Everyone knows the line.
Say it.
Do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugared water, or do you want to come with me and change the world?
You meant it.
I meant it. I meant every word of it. The problem with the line wasn't that I didn't mean it. The problem was that John heard it as recruitment. I said it as a covenant. I thought we'd made a covenant on a balcony. He thought he'd accepted a job. Those are very different things. We didn't find out. We had misunderstood each other for about 2 years.
When did you find out?
Spring of '85. There'd been tension. The Mac wasn't selling the way I'd promised. I'd promised numbers I shouldn't have promised. The board was unhappy. John was unhappy. I was doing what I always did when things weren't working, which was double down on intensity. I was harder to work with. I keep doing this with my chin. Sorry. I was harder to work with than I needed to be.
The board meeting.
There were several. The one that matters was, I want to say May, late May. John presented a reorg. The reorg moved me off the Macintosh division. It moved me to a job that wasn't a job, chairman, but no operating role. A figurehead. I objected. I objected hard. Mike was the swing vote. Mike had been my mentor. Mike had taught me almost everything I knew about running a company. Mike voted for John.
How did Mike tell you?
He didn't tell me first. I found out in the room. We were all in the room. He raised his hand for John's plan. He didn't look at me. I want to be honest. He might have looked at me. I might not have looked back. I don't trust my memory of that moment. I trust the outcome of the moment.
What did you do that night?
I drove home, Woodside, the house I had then. I sat in the kitchen. There was nothing in the kitchen. I'd never bought furniture for the kitchen either. There was a stool. I sat on the stool. I didn't turn the lights on. I sat there until, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. Then I went upstairs and I packed a bag and I drove to SFO and I got on a plane.
Paris.
Paris.
Why Paris?
Because Paris was the first flight that had a seat. I want to be precise. I didn't pick Paris because I had a romantic notion about Paris. I went to the international terminal. There was a flight leaving for Paris in 90 minutes. There was a first-class seat. I bought it. That was the decision. People want there to be more to it. There isn't.
A week.
A week. I checked into a hotel. I don't remember the name. Somewhere on the left bank. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I didn't tell Laureen. I wasn't with Laureen yet. We hadn't met. I didn't tell anyone. My parents didn't know. The Apple board thought as I was somewhere in California sulking. I was on a balcony in the 6th arrondissement.
Did you call anyone?
I tried to call Mike Murray. He was a project manager on the Mac team. He'd been one of mine. He defended me at the board meeting, at the board meeting actually. He'd argued for me. I respected him. The first night in Paris, it was about 11 at night, his time. So 2 p.m. for me, I picked up the phone in the hotel room. I asked the operator to dial Murray's home number. The phone rang, he didn't pick up. I let it ring about 40 times, I'm not exaggerating. I counted. I let it ring 40 times, and then I hung up.
Why didn't he answer?
He told me later he saw the international ringing pattern, and he didn't recognize it. He was tired, he let it ring. He thought it was a wrong number. He had no way to know it was me. I had no reason to expect him to know. I'm not telling you this to blame him. I'm telling you this because I built a company that put me on magazine covers, and I couldn't get one person on the phone the night the company fired me. That's not a thing about Mike. That's a thing about what I'd built and how I'd built it.
What did you do?
I went out. I walked. I walked from the 6th down through Saint-Germain, across the river, up through the Marais. I walked for, I don't know, 3-4 hours. I ended up sitting on a bench outside a bakery that was just opening for the morning. The smell of the bread coming out, that smell, if I say I sat on that bench and I watched the baker put loaves in the window, he didn't know me. He didn't speak English. He saw me sitting there and he came out and he gave me a piece of bread. He didn't ask for anything. He just handed it to me, walked back inside.
A baker gave you bread.
A baker gave me bread in Paris at 5 in the morning, and I'd just been fired from the company I'd built. I'd just been awake for 36 hours. I was 30 years old, and a man whose name I didn't know handed me a piece of bread and went back to his oven. Here's the thing, I've told this story maybe twice in my life. I told it to Laureen once. I told it to Lisa once. I don't tell it because it sounds like a parable. It sounds made up. It wasn't made up. It was the most real thing that happened to me that year.
Why didn't it cure you?
It did for about 20 minutes. Then I went back to the hotel and I started planning next. Planning next was me proving John wrong. I told myself it was different. It wasn't different. The baker had given me an hour of grace. I used the hour to start the next war.
At Stanford. 20 years later, You said getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to you.
I did say that.
Was it?
It was a thing I said at Stanford in 2005 to a stadium full of kids in graduation gowns. It was true in the sense that the speech was true. It wasn't the whole story. The whole story is I cried for about a year on and off. The whole story is I almost didn't recover. The whole story is there was a bench in Paris, and a baker gave me bread, and I used the grace from that bread to go start another war. The Stanford speech is the cleaned up version. It's not a lie. It's a polish.
Like the Lisa version.
Like the Lisa version. Yeah. I do that. I polish things. I've gotten better at noticing.
I want to come back to Lisa.
Okay.
She came to live with you.
She came to live with us. She was 14, I think. Her mother and her had been having a hard time. Lisa needed something else. She moved in with Lorene and me. We had Reed by then. He was 2. She had her own room.
Was it good?
It was not good in the way I wanted it to be good. It was good in patches. It was bad in other patches. I still didn't know how to be a father to a teenager who'd grown up without me. I was trying to start being a father at the wrong time in the play. The play was already on Act 3, and I was walking on like I'd been there since the curtain went up. She knew. She knew I was walking on late. She was generous about it, more generous than I deserved.
She changed her name?
She changed her name. Lisa Brennan-Jobs, hyphenated. She made that decision herself. I want to be clear about that. I didn't ask her to. Lorene didn't ask her to. She did it. When I saw it the first time, when I saw a piece of mail addressed to Lisa Brennan-Jobs, I had to sit down. I had to actually sit down. It was a passport, I think, or her driver's license. I picked it up off the kitchen counter and I read the name and I sat on the floor, right there. Not on a chair, on the floor, in the kitchen.
Why?
Because she'd kept Brennan, she'd kept her mother's name, she'd added mine, she hadn't replaced anyone. She just added me. That was the most generous sentence I'd ever read on a piece of mail. I sat on the floor and I keep doing this. With my chin, I'm aware I'm doing it. Lisa pointed it out once, years ago. She does it too. Same gesture, same fingers. It's the only thing about her face that's mine. The rest is Chrisanne. The eyes are Chrisan's eyes. The mouth is Chrisan's mouth. The chin she got from me, and the way she touches it when she's thinking, she got from me. I gave her almost nothing for 14 years. And then it turned out I'd given her this one thing, without knowing.
Did you tell her that?
I told her last year, yeah. I told her last year.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything for a while. Then she did the gesture with her chin. She didn't say anything. She did the gesture, and she half smiled, and she kept reading whatever she was reading. That was the whole conversation. That was enough.
When she was in college,
Harvard.
She called you.
She called me. She called me a lot. She wanted to talk. She wanted what a kid wants from a parent in college. She wanted to be missed. She wanted me to call back. I didn't sometimes. I didn't a lot of times. There were stretches. There were stretches where she'd leave messages and I wouldn't return them for a week. 2 weeks. There was one stretch, I don't want to say how long.
How long?
Months.
Months.
Months. She'd call. I'd see the message. I'd think, I'll call her back tonight. Then I'd think, I'll call her back tomorrow. Then I'd think, it's been too long, the call will be hard, I'll call her this weekend. Then I'd think, that's the pattern. That's the pattern that ate the months.
She wrote about that.
She wrote about it years ago, an essay. She wrote it very fairly. She wrote it more fairly than I would have written it about myself. She didn't make me a monster. She made me what I was, which was a man who had a clock running on his ability to love anyone and who was choosing to spend the clock somewhere else. That's what she wrote, more or less. That's harder to read than Monster. Monster, I could have defended against. What she wrote, I can't defend against. I just have to sit with it.
Have you read it more than once?
Twice. I read it twice. I'm not going to read it again, not because it's bad, because I don't think I should make a habit of reading the inventory of what I missed. Once was for understanding. Twice was for confirming. Three times would be punishment. And punishment isn't useful. That's something I've learned recently.
My back hurts.
I'm sorry. Mine does too. We can stand up.
I'm okay. Keep going.
The last thing I want to say about Lisa is when I got sick the second time, after the transplant. She came to Splant. She came to the house. She didn't come every day. She came when she could. She'd sit in the room. She'd read. I'd sleep. I'd wake up, and she'd be there. I never said the word sorry to her. Not in those words. Not in a formal way. There was an afternoon. She was sitting in the chair by the window. She was upset about something else, about a guy, I think. Something in her life that had nothing to do with me. She was crying. I was in the bed. I couldn't really get up. I just put my hand out. I put my hand out, and she came over and she sat on the edge of the bed and she let me hold her hand. That was as close as I got to saying it. I held her hand until she stopped crying. That was the apology. It wasn't enough. It was what I had. I don't have a word for what I owed her. I really don't. I have what I gave her, the chin and the 15 minutes of hand-holding. That's the inventory. Anyway, the back. We should stretch.
Next.
Next. Yeah. Let's talk about next a little.
It didn't work the way you wanted.
It didn't work the way I wanted. It worked the way it actually worked. Those are different.
What does that mean?
Next was the most beautiful computer I'd ever built. The cube. magnesium case, optical drive. The operating system was insanely good. It's still, the lineage of that operating system is what runs every Mac today. It's what runs every iPhone, every iPad, every Apple Watch. The DNA of Next is in everything. Commercially, the computer was a failure. We sold 50,000 units in about a decade. We were supposed to sell that in a year. I'd built a Ferrari for people who needed a Toyota. I knew it. I built it anyway.
Why?
Because I had to prove John wrong.
That was the whole thing.
That was a lot of the thing, not the whole thing. The whole thing also had, there was real work in there. There was real love for the machine. But the engine running underneath was, John was wrong, and I'm going to prove it. I'm not going to dress that up. That's what it was.
Pixar.
Pixar I got into by accident. $5 million. I bought it from George Lucas. He needed cash for his divorce. He sold me a small graphics division of Lucasfilm. They were making computers. As they had a thing called the Pixar Image Computer, which is what Bump the Company was named for. They weren't making movies. They were making hardware nobody wanted. I bought it because I thought the computer might sell. The computer didn't sell. I almost shut Pixar down, I want to say 4 times, maybe 5. There was a meeting in '91 where I was within an inch of selling it to Microsoft. Bill wanted the technology, I wanted the cash. The only reason I didn't is John Lasseter walked into my office that afternoon with storyboards for a short film about a desk lamp.
Luxo Jr.
Luxo Jr. He showed me storyboards for Luxo Jr. and Tin Toy and a couple of other things. I watched him present them. John was different. John talked about characters the way I talked about products. He talked about them like they were alive. Like the lamp had an inner life. Like the lamp had stakes. I'd never heard anybody talk about a lamp that way. I went home and I told Lorene, I'm not going to sell the company. She said, why? I said, because I'm going to learn something from these people.
That's a different answer than you would have given in 1985.
That's a different answer than I would have given in 1985. In 1985, I would have said, I'm keeping it because I'm going to win. In 1991, I said, I'm keeping it because I want to learn something. Those are different sentences from different people. The transition between those 2 sentences that's most of what changed about me in those years.
What did Pixar teach you?
A lot of things. I'll give you the one that mattered most. Ed Catmull ran Pixar with me. Ed had been doing it before I got there. Ed is one of the most quietly important people in the history of computers. And almost nobody outside the industry has heard of him. Ed ran Pixar like a place where people could disagree with him. He'd have a meeting and he'd say what he thought, and then he'd actually let people argue with him. He'd change his mind in the meeting. You know, in front of everyone. He'd say, "You're right, I was wrong, let's do it your way." I watched him do that for about 3 years before I understood what I was watching.
What were you watching?
I was watching a different way to run a company. Apple in the 80s had been, I'd run Apple by intensity, by force, by being the loudest right answer in the room. Ed ran Pixar by curiosity, by patience, by being willing to lose an argument in front of the people who reported to him. I'd never seen that. I didn't think it could work. It worked. Toy Story worked. Finding Nemo worked. The Incredibles worked. Pixar didn't have a flop for 20 years. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen by intensity. That happens by something else.
Did you change?
I changed some. I didn't change all the way. Anyone at Apple in the late 90s will tell you I was still difficult. I still made people cry. I still called things shit when I meant they weren't ready. I didn't become Ed. I would never become Ed. But I borrowed pieces. I borrowed the patience for the right kind of argument. I borrowed the willingness to be wrong out loud sometimes. Not always. Sometimes. That was the magical thing about Pixar's for me. It taught me that the company I'd built at Apple wasn't the only kind of company that could make something insanely great. There were others. There were better ones.
When you went back to Apple?
When I went back to Apple, I tried to bring some of it. Not all of it. Some of it. I think, look at that. I think some of it stuck.
That's the closest I've heard you come to saying you were grateful for being fired.
I'm grateful. Pixar happened. I'm grateful for Ed. I'm grateful for John Lasseter walking in with the Luxos Engineer boards. I'm grateful for Reed being born in '91 and changing the math of my life. The math of my life. I don't think I'm grateful for getting fired. Those aren't the same thing. The firing was the doorway. The doorway wasn't the gift. The room past the doorway was the gift. I keep wanting to give credit to the doorway. I shouldn't. The doorway was a humiliation. The room was the gift.
I want to ask you something hard.
Okay?
Was the cruelty necessary?
That's the right question. That's the one I don't have a clean answer to.
Try.
I made a lot of people cry. I want to be specific about that. Not metaphorically cry, actually cry. In meetings, in hallways. I called people bozos. I called work shit. Sometimes I called the work shit when it was actually quite good, because I wanted the next version to be better. Sometimes I called the work shit when it really was shit. The people on the receiving end couldn't always tell which was which. They had to guess. They lived inside the guessing.
Was any of it necessary?
Some of it, yeah, some of it. The Macintosh wouldn't have shipped without somebody being unreasonable. Apple wouldn't have come back from the brink in '97 without somebody being unreasonable. The iPhone wouldn't have existed if the engineering team hadn't been pushed past what they thought was possible. That's a real claim. I believe that claim. I'm not making it up to comfort myself. But there was a percentage. There was a percentage of the cruelty that wasn't necessary. There was a percentage of it that was me. That was me having a bad morning and a person walking in with the wrong thing at the wrong time and me taking it out on them. There was a percentage of it that was, I'm going to say something hard now. There was a percentage of it that I enjoyed. Not the hurting, not the hurting. I want to be careful about how I say this. I didn't enjoy hurting people, but I enjoyed being the loudest right answer in the room. I enjoyed being unchallenged. The cruelty was the cost of being unchallenged. And there were stretches when I would have paid that cost on purpose. I would have paid it again.
Even now?
I'd like to say no. I want to say no for the camera. The truer answer is, I don't know. If you put me back in 1983 and you gave me the choice, be slightly worse at this and be a kinder person, or be slightly better at this and be the person I was, I don't trust myself to say I'd pick the first one. I'd like to think I would. I don't trust the thinking.
That's an unusual thing to admit.
It's a true thing to admit. That's what I have now. I have true things. I don't have polished things anymore. I used to have polished things. The polish is wearing off, and I've decided to let it wear off instead of reapplying.
Why decide that?
The clock. We talked about the clock.
We talked about the clock?
The clock changes what's expensive. When the clock was long, polish was cheap. Polish was almost free. You could afford to polish for forever. When the clock is short, polish costs the truth. I can't afford polish anymore. I literally can't afford it, time-wise.
There's something you started to say earlier about Cupertino.
My biological father, I never met him. I never went to meet him. He managed a restaurant in Cupertino for years. I went to that restaurant a couple of times. I didn't know he was the owner. I didn't know he was, when I learned later, I had a feeling I don't have a word for. Mona told me, my sister. Mona figured it out before I did when she was researching her own, when she was researching our mother. She came to me with it. I sat with it for a while. I actually know. I don't want to go further into that one. I don't think I have I don't think today's the day for that one. Sorry. I started it. I shouldn't have started it.
It's okay to leave it.
Okay?
I'm not going to push.
Thank you.
One last thing before we close this out. If this conversation gave you something the internet usually doesn't, subscribe and send it to one person. Not 10, one, the right one. That's how stories like this survive on a platform built for noise. Okay, back to him. Let's come back to this morning.
This morning. Okay, yeah.
You said you sit out here for an hour.
An hour. Sometimes a little less. The back, mostly.
What happens in the hour?
Different things on different mornings. Today, I'll tell you what happened today. I came out at about 6. The light wasn't up yet over the hedge. It's June, so the light comes early, but it has to clear that hedge before it really gets here. I sat down. I had the tea. The tea was the tea I always have, which is it's an Earl Grey. Decaf. My doctor doesn't want me on caffeine anymore. The tea was fine. It got cold. I drank it cold. Reed came out at, I want to say, 6:30. He's 19 now. He's home from school for the summer. He came out the back door in a t-shirt and shorts, and he didn't see me. I was on the bench. The hedge is between the bench and the door. So when he walked out, he was looking at the garden, not at me. I just sat. I didn't say anything. He stood at the edge of the patio for about, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3. He was looking at the orange tree, the blood orange. He was just looking at it.
What was he doing?
I don't know. He wasn't doing anything. He was standing in his own backyard at 6:30 in the morning looking at a tree. That's what he was doing.
Did you say hi?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't know how to explain this. I almost, there's the thing, with my chin.
I noticed.
I almost did it just now. I caught it. I caught it halfway up. I'm going to put my hand down there. Anyway. The reason I didn't say hi was Reed is a kid who's lived his whole life in a house where I came home and said hi loudly. I came home and I made a thing of being home. I called him by name. I asked him 3 questions before he'd taken his backpack off. I was performing fatherhood. Some of that was some of love, some of that was guilt about Lisa. Some of it was me being loud, being the loudest right answer in the room, in my own house, my own son. This morning he didn't know I was there, and I had a choice. Steve from any other year of my life would have said hi, would have called out, would have made the moment about being seen by his father. This morning I just let him have it, the tree, the morning, the whole thing. I just let him stand there. And then he stood there for another minute, and he went back inside. He never saw me. He's going to come back out for breakfast in a little while, and I'll say good morning then. That'll be the first time today he and I see each other. Today, I let him have the first thing of the day without me in it.
That sounds small.
It is small. It's very small. That's why I'm telling you. The big things I'm not. The big things I don't have a confident take on. The small things I'm starting to have a take on.
What did this not fix?
Time. Time is the obvious one. I won't pretend. I'm 56. I don't get to see Reed at 25. I don't get to see Reed at 40. I don't get to know what kind of man my son becomes. Eve is 12, almost 13. I don't get to walk her down anything. Erin's 15, 16s this summer. I won't see her finish college. Lisa I got to know as an adult, finally, but I lost the first 20 years, and I don't get those back. Time. None of this, none of the work, none of the company, none of the money, none of it fixed time. That's the first thing it didn't fix.
What's the second?
closeness. Closeness didn't get fixed. I got better at it. I got considerably better at it. I would say I got from terrible to mediocre. Mediocre is a real improvement. I'm not selling it short, but I never got to easy. I never got to the place where being close to people felt natural. It always felt like a thing I was doing on purpose, a thing I had to remember to keep doing, like a posture I had to hold. Some people can sit normally. Some people have to remember to sit up. I had to remember to be close. I had to remember it every single day. And on the days I forgot, the people around me felt it. They knew.
Did they say anything?
Laureen did. Once. She said, "You went away again." Just that. "You went away again." That was the whole sentence. She didn't say it to hurt me. She said it the way you tell someone there was something on their shirt. "You went away again." I came back. I always came back, but she had to tell me I'd gone. That was the part I never solved.
You're going away.
The going away. The fact that I had to be told. Other people don't have to be told. They're in the room. They don't leave the room without knowing. I would leave the room. I'd be sitting right next to her at dinner, and I'd leave the room. She'd have to put a hand on my arm and say, "You went away again." I'd come back. But the leaving was free for me, and the noticing was her job. I never wanted that to be her job.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Yeah.
Was Reed standing there for long?
I don't know how long. I was watching. I wasn't counting. You know what's strange?
What?
I don't think I ever just watched anyone before. I always thought I was watching. I always thought of myself as a person who paid attention. The famous Jobs attention. I built a career on saying I paid attention better than other people did. And I did, in a way. I noticed things in products. I noticed when a corner was wrong by 0.5 millimeter. I noticed when a font was slightly off. I noticed when a hinge had too much resistance. I noticed those things. I built that. But I was looking. There's a difference. I'm not sure I knew that until this year. Looking is when you take something in so you can do something with it. Watching is when you take something in and you don't do anything with it. You just let it be the thing it is. The orange tree this morning didn't need anything done with it. Reed didn't need anything done with him. He didn't need to be improved. He didn't need to be optimized. He was already the thing he was. And I watched him be it. That's new. That's a thing this year has given me. I don't know if I would have learned it without, I don't want to be sentimental. I don't know if I would have learned it. Let's leave it at that.
One more.
Okay?
When you go back inside, what's the first thing you'll do?
I'm going to make Reed breakfast.
Yeah.
He likes eggs scrambled soft. I learned that recently. I used to make them the way I made them. Now I make them the way he likes them. That took me, I don't know, 55 years to make eggs the way the other person likes them.
That's the residue.
Yeah, I think that's the residue, the eggs, the morning, the tree, whether he saw me on the bench or not.
He didn't see.
He didn't see me. He didn't have to. I was there. He was there. That was the morning. That was, yeah, that was enough. Are you hungry? I think the question, actually, the question I keep wanting to ask you is, are you hungry? There's some bread inside. I could make you something. Would you eat something with us? Reed will be down in a minute.